out this guy.
What?
Welcome back to Hot Rod Garage. Today we have an awesome episode for you. We have a battle of these three legendary engines. We've got a 2JZ, LS motor, and a 12-valve Cummins. Now there's a cult following behind each one that thinks it's the best thing since sliced bread. You can get them for $2. They all make 10,000 horsepower, and they absolutely never break. But we're gonna try to see how these things stack up against each other. We've got $5,000 to buy an engine and modify it. After that, we're gonna stick them on a dyno, run them as hard as we can, and hold on. I'm gonna sort of head up the 2JZ build. These are really, really burly motors. It's a 3-liter inline 6-cylinder Japanese dual overhead cam 24-valve engine. It comes twin turbo. This is a high revving, high horsepower, high boost motor. These things are gnarly. Here we've got an LS motor. These things are everywhere. People swap them into absolutely every car. Lucky's gonna build this one. This specifically is a 6-liter truck motor, good old American V8. It's pretty basic technology, but it is beautifully executed. These things are rad. So here we have this beautiful block of cast iron. This thing is like almost 1,000 pounds. This is a 12-valve Cummins motor. It is a turbo diesel, 5.9 liter. These things make stump pulling torque, and they respond to modifications like crazy. We're both gonna work on this thing.
We're both gonna just guess.
Throw parts at it. Throw parts at it, and we're gonna internet the hell out of this thing. Obviously, these things are already modified and ready to hit the dyno, but they didn't start that way. So now we're gonna show you how we got here. You ready? Here? Yeah. Back in time. So here it is, the legendary 2JZ. This engine is an internet superstar. They make a significant amount of power, and they really do hold together. Because I wanted to save money, we have $5,000 to buy the engine and modify it. I picked a VVTi motor, that's variable valve timing. I decided to buy the VVTi motor for one reason. It's about $1,000 cheaper. I paid $2,100 for this thing. It takes a little bit more computer and wiring and tuning to make it work right, but these are just as good, if not better, as the non-VVTi motors. You're gonna save a ton of money, have a better power band, and it is the exact same bottom end. Same pistons, same rods, same strength. Now, to make this power, I'm only gonna bolt stuff to the outside of the motor. Turbo, manifold, wastegate downpipe, and add some more fuel to it. All right, so this engine has an ECU, an engine computer that we're not going to use. Part of our stipulations when we were coming up with this engine comparison is that you get to spend $5,000 on everything on the motor, but you don't have to pay for your computer. Everybody's gotta have a computer. I'm going to upgrade this to an AEM system that can control this VVTi very easily. I'm just gonna strip the whole harness down and tear it off, because with that AEM system, I won't need any of it. So I've got the upper intake manifold off. That gives me access to these fuel injectors, which I'm gonna upgrade. I'm also gonna start peeling and pulling away this entire stock wiring harness, which goes everywhere and is connected to everything. Pulling out the stock fuel rail. This will get replaced with a new fuel rail with top feed, much bigger injectors. Okay, so we finally revealed, after taking all sorts of junk off, the twin turbos on our 2JZ engine. There's a lot going on here, so we're gonna simplify everything, which is always more fun for a hot rod. And then we are going to put on a bigger turbocharger, because bigger is obviously way better. Finally.
This is an iron block, aluminum headed LS format, but it's actually an LQ4, which means it's an iron block out of a truck. We got it for 2,300 complete harness, ECU, complete motor, everything they took out. We're gonna throw a cam, valve springs in it, a tune. The motor apparently came out of a rollover because it's got a bunch of oil in the intake. That's a good sign. It means it was running all the way up to the scene of the accident.
So now that we have all of the stock twin turbo stuff pulled off our 2JZ engine, it's time to bolt on one big single turbo. Now that's pretty much what everybody does to make power with these things. I'm gonna show you how to do it really affordably, and I think it's gonna work. I decided to spend $1,600 at CX Racing on a Chinese turbo setup, and I spent $400, $500 more on fuel parts. I haven't totally exhausted my budget. I've got a very affordable Chinese turbo that I think is gonna hold together and make a ton of power. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just test fit the exhaust manifold, and it looks like it's gonna need just a little bit of modification to get where it's gotta go. I'm trying to figure out how to route this oil drain. Problem is with turbochargers like this that are universalist, you have to adjust everything. You have to adjust the center section, the turbine housing, and the compressor housing to make sure everything is going to work and is happy together. It takes quite a bit of time. So since I'm happy with all the lines, I'm gonna lock down the center section. And this has gotta be within 15 degrees of straight up and down vertical, or you're not gonna get good drain flow out of it, and it can make your turbo smoke and blow the seals on it. So it's pretty important. I'm gonna install the wastegate. The way a wastegate works is it's a controlled exhaust leak, basically around the turbo. So if you open this thing up, less air is gonna go through the turbo, so it's gonna reduce the amount of boost this thing is making. That's how they control boost in an engine. Ta-da, there it is. Complete CX Racing T76 2JZ turbo kit. All this is gonna cram lots more air into this engine, which means now we have to put lots more fuel in it, so that's next.
Tony did some snooping around, realized that there was still a little budget left in my budget, so I found some heads for an unbelievable price. Those bulletproof heads from Speedmaster. We're gonna put those on here and make even more horsepower. That is rancid. The motor is full of poo. Okay, so here is our comp cam. It's comp cam part number 064935-17. I just knew that off the top of my head. This is to prevent it from galling the first time you start it before it gets oil pressure. They call it assembly lube because you use it when you assemble. Very important step. You have to be very careful when assembling it as to not gouge the bearings. See that? Done. Okay, so these are just replacement hydraulic roller lifters. Apparently they're shockproof, so that's good. I had to go to 3 different local auto parts stores from a chain that will remain unnamed One place had 6, one place had 5, one place had 4. I should have just went straight to rockauto.com.
So we've got that big T76 turbo bolted to the exhaust side of this 2JZ. Now it's time to add a bunch more fuel into this thing to keep up with all that turbo boosted air. There's an LA shop, Drift Motion, to make a ton of really affordable 2J parts. And I got a set of Siemens 840cc or 80-pound injectors, Drift Motion fuel rail. If this works, it's a pretty cool little setup. This is just about done. I've just got to now wire up our AEM computer, and then we're gonna take this thing off to the dyno and make a ton of power.
The only trick to using this is not pinch your fingers. Here's a hoedown of what it does. So the valve goes into the head, and then the spring goes on top, and then you install a couple of retainers. When you release the spring, the retainers stop it from coming out. You're doing all that while you're squeezing a trigger and trying not to pinch your finger. So after all that, I like to tap the retainers just to make sure they're seated correctly. The specs on the head are very simple. 62 cc's, which is a much smaller chamber. It's going to create a whole lot more compression. So the two big upgrades we did to the 6-liter are we put aluminum heads on it. These things flow a ton. The other big upgrade we did was a cam. It's got well over 600 lift. We put a couple of standard things on. We put new push rods in with the correct geometry. We got new valve springs. It came with the kit for the heads. We also put a timing set on it. Other than that, I think we're good. So I'm gonna bolt all the externals on, all the internals are done, and we're off to the dyno.
So we're here with our third Challenger. We've got a 12-valve Cummins motor here. They respond crazy to modifications. They're really detuned engines from the way you get them in the trucks. And all you have to do is throw a big turbo and a bunch of fuel parts at it, and it makes power. And it does it with only a few modifications.
Let's do those few modifications.
You do the turbo, I'll do the fuel stuff.
Wait, plug it in.
Yeah, and plug it in. Let's keep us warm. It's cold in here. This thing's already been through the pressure washer once, and you can see it's just so caked in grime. I'm gonna call them dirty diesels for nothing. The 12-valve Cummins motor has this strange Achilles heel. As soon as you buy one of these trucks, get in here, do what's called the killer dowel pin modification, and you'll be good to go. Basically, the way it works is this dowel pin backs itself out of that case, falls into these gears, and ruins everything. This is the main piece. That's what's going to keep this thing alive. Just a little tab, bolts in here, and keeps that dowel pin from falling, and you're done.
So you can't break one of these motors, but it will commit suicide.
Yeah, you can't break them, but also it will randomly annihilate itself. Nice.
So these are 90 horsepower injectors from BD Diesel. They basically want the old ones back. I believe they rebuild them, bore them out a little bit, and give them to you. Look, Mom, I'm building a diesel motor. She told me to stay in school. I'd be building diesels for a living. So BD Diesel have outdone themselves with this exhaust manifold. It actually has a slip fit, which plugs itself up with carbon, stops it from leaking, but it allows the manifold to expand and retract with the heat. Pretty trick. All right, so I snatched a turbo off the bottom of the bench right here. This is the BD Diesel Super
SXE turbo. And it is super sexy too.
So to make this engine rev 1,000 RPM higher, which makes it way happier for performance, I'm gonna remove these old governor springs and put in the new ones with this 3,000 RPM kit that BD sells. It's pretty intricate and tedious, so if you're a little bit scared of it, I would probably have a professional do it. We're gonna put the giant spring back in, and then just 2 springs. That's a little bit complicated because if you drop anything in here, it's a disaster. Put that down. And I'm gonna set this depth to the same thing it was when it came out. So while Lucky is finishing the turbo install, I'm gonna start working on the P-pump. This is the fuel controller for the whole engine. It's got a boost sensor here that pushes this whole rail forward. And basically there is an injector that corresponds for each cylinder. And as this thing spins, in time, it delivers fuel to each cylinder. I'm gonna install what BD Diesel calls a cam plate. A lot of people refer to this as a fuel plate. There's a rail inside here that is controlled by the position and shape of the cam plate. As this thing rails forward under boost, it allows these nozzles to open up a little bit faster and a little bit more aggressively. It's gonna give it more fuel on a diesel, more power. Now, you can slide this forward and back for more and less fuel. We can mess around with that stuff once we're on the dyno. So that's it. That's all the mods are gonna do to the Cummins motor. Lucky did that super sexy turbo and manifold, injectors. I did the killer dowel pin kit just to keep it alive, a fuel plate, and governor spring kit. This thing's ready to go. What's really cool is that the guys here at No Grady have actually made a custom adapter for each one of these engines and made custom mounts to mount them up to these carts that go with their DTS-style dyno. We searched forever and couldn't find anybody that would put all 3 on the same dyno, and these guys are doing it for us, so it's awesome. We've got my 2JZ VVTi motor strapped to the No Grady dyno. It's a little bit different than it was at the shop. I went out to Drift Motion. They sent us an upper plenum and an 80mm throttle body. It's a little bit better than what we had going on before. And the really key piece is that Wiring Specialties made us a custom harness to adapt that VVTi motor to the AM ECU. It all plugged in, plug and play. It's awesome. Remember, it's basically a stock engine with a big turbo bolted to it, and that's it. Fire right up. That is actually the first time we did that. Okay, so to make sure that the 2JZ has a great showing, AEM sent over a wizard tuner. This is Henry Shelley. Henry is awesome at tuning, and he's gonna do this in half the time with better results. Let's do this thing. So after giving Henry some time to do some baseline pulls and tweak a couple values, it's time to do a full throttle pull. We made 561 horsepower and 456 pound-feet of torque with this 2JZ motor. Now it's time to put that Cummins on here and see if we can't basically tear that whole dyno in half. Hello. So we've been making a bunch of pulls on the Cummins motor, both to get the numbers up and to get the air fuel right, but also to get the dyno to read this engine. Since this dyno is set up basically for a gas engine, it only starts picking up power readings around 2,700 RPM. Now by then the Cummins almost out of breath, this thing's only gonna rev to about 3,400 RPMs. So we're gonna do our best to get the biggest sample possible, hopefully about 700 RPM. It's gonna happen. Our Cummins read 733 pound-feet of torque on the way down and 406 horsepower.
That's actually crazy.
Pretty badass. I think it's time now we're gonna find an RPM window and compare them all and find a winner, but really, they're all winners. So here's how we're adding up the scores. Since these motors make all kinds of different power at different RPMs, and the Cummins only gave us a small 700 RPM window to work with, we're going to score the best 700 RPM window of each motor.
It means we're gonna add up the horsepower and torque for every 100 RPMs in that 700 RPM window, and those combined numbers for horsepower and torque will be the score for each motor.
So that means that the Cummins is ahead with 75.98, the 2J 68.94, and the LS 64.72. Depending on how we did that RPM window or pick the rules, any of these could win. If we did a super broad window, the LS would win because it makes power everywhere. If we just did peak numbers, the 2J would win.
Yep.
Right? And then if we
Needed to move a house.
yeah, the Cummins would win. The real winners are us because all three of these engines, which all run awesome and didn't explode, are going into Hot Rod Garage project cars this season.
Job security.
Awesome. I want to say a big thanks to the guys at No Grady Racing Engines who did a ton of custom fab work to get all three of these engines bolted up to the same dyno. Without their effort, this would have never been possible, so thanks guys again. That's it for this episode of Hot Rod Garage. Don't forget to check us out on social media between episodes. The show is Hot Rod Garage Show on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Tangelo96 on Instagram.
I'm Mobile Tech Lucky.
We will see you guys next time.
You did it, buddy. You did it.
Woo! Pizza.